in with a great guest today. It's Avi Kaufman. Got it wrong. I guarantee you I didn't pronounce it
That was pretty
correctly.
good. That was pretty good with the Irish accent. I think that's a pretty good pronunciation. Thank you, Gavin. I'm so excited to be here.
Avi, you're co-founder and chief real estate officer of Future Lot. You're a U.S. Army veteran. Well done on your service. You're a
Thank you.
former GE marketeer. You're a man that has plenty of experience in real estate in the States. And we're going to talk about that. You're a tech entrepreneur, and you're going to talk to us about a very interesting topic that we haven't spoke about on the podcast before, which is the planning stage or the pre-planning stage and the zoning stage of a property. And you've got some interesting tool that can help homeowners and builders cut out all that intensive research period, I would suggest, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, and cut through the bullshit, if you like, and get to where the key information is, whether you can actually build something or what you can build on a plot, if I'm correct.
That's absolutely correct. I think that initial planning stage when you're first evaluating a project, so much of how the project goes and whether you make money or lose your shirt, a lot of that gets set in those initial meetings.
Wow, because literally before we came on this podcast, um, we deal in the wind industry, and we literally had a meeting earlier on today, and it was about all of this part of construction projects, in the sense that it could be 2 years of planning and going through surveys and environmental surveys. Talk about bats. Talking about everything, like, you know, got to do with soil and anything can think of in terms of wind turbines. And still, at the end of the 2 years, the project might not go ahead because of not getting the planning permission, or somebody missed something in the planning stages. And I
No,
think
it's
that's
crazy, right? And people wonder why we can't build like we did 100 years ago. I mean, there's a lot of reasons that we need to check for these things. But you know, here I just learned from our pest control guy that bats are a protected species here, and if
yeah,
you have
same.
them in your attic, you need to get permission to remove them or something.
Yeah.
And wow, that might be a little bit overboard.
No, same here. Like a bat survey, and I was like, and there's such a thing as a Batman.
Right, right.
Have you phoned the Batman?
I have to call
So
one.
let's go back a bit though. I'm interested to hear of your previous history, because you've got a sort of a colorful career in the past. Talk to me about that.
Thank you. I like that adjective, colorful. Um, well, it hasn't been a straight line, but I've learned something at each stage. I
Yeah.
enlisted in the Army out of high school into the reserve, and then went on to college, studied history, and was really interested in Roman cities and how those were laid out. And did my senior thesis on that. Ended up getting into real estate, into residential brokerage. Went on to business school, worked at GE Capital in the sales and marketing for some time, then took some time off. I took a year off to learn to code, and then met my wife, got married, and uh, got back into real estate to earn some money, and learned a lot about residential real estate and why housing is so expensive, and really experienced firsthand how families and seniors and young people, everybody really is struggling, at least here in the States. The housing has gotten really expensive, and it has a dramatic impact on our communities and our families. And that was the inspiration for wanting to do something to help us produce more housing. The other thing, I guess I skipped over a little bit. I did spend a year in Iraq in the Army, and came back having new respect for logistics and how all that operates,
And planning, obviously, as
and
well.
and planning.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Um, I was thinking of a multitude of things there as you're talking. There was like marketeer, sales, real estate, army. But I kind of get the sense that you've got an entrepreneurial streak in you. Where did that come from?
That in some ways, I want to say it's inborn, but I think I have to credit my parents and my my maternal grandfather was a very entrepreneurial person, as well as my both my grandfathers were entrepreneurial, and being able to see what makes a difference and willing to try different things. My mother's father was in real estate, and uh, he innovated quite a few things. He was operating in Berkshire County in Western Massachusetts, and he started Is Good Realty, which was a big firm out there. But he also did a lot of innovations. At the time, this was one of his innovations was the Book of Homes, which is, of course, before computers, before the internet, and every brokerage had their own list. And he saw an opportunity to make it more efficient, both for sellers and for buyers, for homeowners. And so that was the Book of Homes. He also was one of the first ones out there to do condos, which is where you subdivide a house into parts to make it more affordable and to
Yeah.
open up housing to more people. And then my father's father, he operated. He and his family operated Kaufman Hardware, which is the what was the family hardware store, and really innovated how they moved from retail to really going after and helping contractors, and really innovated in that space. And so I think it came down to me through them, probably.
Yeah, but in nearly everything that you've done, probably bar the GE, would it be fair to say that there's a construction element or some sort of a construction element in it?
Yeah, construction or housing element, for
Yeah,
sure, or certainly planning, and uh, even at GE, part of the business was lending in real estate.
that's true. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, yeah. So, in terms of your light bulb moment with regards to this, how did that come about with your co-founders? Were you just shooting the breeze, having a few pints down the local pub, and kind of go, what else are we gonna do?
Not quite. I mean, almost. Well, what happened is, well, to back up, I was working at my own small brokerage here, helping people buy homes, and
Yeah,
so naturally, when the U.S. withdrew from Afghanistan, there was a lot of refugees that we needed to take in, that we wanted to take in from Afghanistan. Our allies who had to flee. And there wasn't a lot of government support here to resettle them, especially initially. It all fell on different charities, the Catholic Charities of America, and they reached out
yeah.
to different religious organizations, including the one that I'm involved with. And as a real estate person, I was tapped to try and help find some housing, and it was really really hard, because people coming here, and one of the people we were trying to help didn't speak English, had served in the Afghan army as our ally, came with his family, had no job experience other than as a fighter, and not speaking English. It was very challenging.
Hmm.
um, and w- what I saw is a lot of members of the community came forward and tried to help, and different ways to offer housing. What was really successful, a different religious organization in the neighboring town had a different person they were sponsoring. They had someone in their community who had a carriage house in their backyard. They volunteered that for the person they were sponsoring, and that person was able to get integrated and settle and have a much more stable landing. And so that was sort of this light bulb moment of, we just need more capacity like that,
Yeah,
where people have spaces in their own homes or can develop in their own homes. And that's essentially the accessory dwelling unit. And so then when I met my co-founder Nitsan, I said, look, the laws are changing. We're going to start allowing more housing production, and the pendulum is swinging this way. One of the things that's going to be allowed are these backyard cottages. And no one knows where they can build them, though, because the zoning's so complex. What would be great is if you could just type in your address and it shows you all the rules that are relevant to you specifically.
oh wow, yeah. So you're doing a per postcode in terms of the research. So how do you solve the research?
Well, it's really challenging. Each of the zoning bylaws for each town are between, say, 50 and 2,000 pages of PDF.
Yeah,
And it's layer upon layer, built over like 75 years. They're often contradictory with themselves.
yeah,
and and every municipality, so in the US, more than 20,000, maybe 30,000 municipalities, each with their own codes.
Yeah.
So it's not no one's ever gone through and done it with the granularity that we're doing it. And so
Yeah.
we're at the same time that these laws are changing, also AI is becoming a useful tool. So we're marrying the two, and we have a human review element as well. But we're
Yeah.
essentially training AI to read these codes to then produce in a very targeted, very granular way that we then combine with data for that specific parcel, for that specific structure, for that state, and then layering on all the hazard layers to give you early read of this is what you're likely able to do. These are likely the constraints, and these are possibly the red flags that you should look out for.
Wow. And so is that instant data, or is that something that you just put in and then wait for a while to come back, or
Uh,
how
from,
do you roll that out?
from the user's point of view, it's instant. From our point of view, it's a lot of work.
It's a
Uh,
lot of work, yeah.
a lot of work, but it from the user's point of view, it's instant. You put in the address, and seconds later you have this report, and you have a map, and you can pull on floor plans, and you can visually see the setbacks, and you can visually see, oh, here's wetlands, here's sinkhole hazard, here's fire hazard,
Yeah.
and you can very quickly get a picture, and you can see the topography. So then the homeowner calls you as the builder and says, hey, I want to put on a backyard cottage in my property, and okay, what's your address? And now with our software, from that very first conversation, like right on the phone, you can say, okay, I can see this is what might pertain to your lot, and you can have an intelligent conversation. So A, you're impressing them and they're more likely to actually
Yeah.
go forward with you. But B, if you raise an issue, like you say, hey, we can do it here, but just so you know, I see there's a steep grade, that's going to
Yeah.
mean that we need to do some grading, and that's going to have some cost. You build that trust, but you also set yourself up for success. Versus the alternative. The alternative is you say, hey, I'll get back to you. I'll try and drive by in a week or two. Okay, now I have to call the town. Now I have to read the document. I don't know. And so like a month later, you actually get a proposal to them, and then you're surprised because like I didn't know that we needed fire construction materials for this property, and it's not a deal breaker, but it's gonna cost you an extra 10K, and think about
Yeah.
what happens to the trust. So,
Yeah.
so essentially, we're trying to set up the builder for success, and then also set up the homeowners so that they can know what they can build, and we can actually produce more of this housing.
I'm intrigued, and I'm trying to think to myself, is it more the architect that would be the key player in this structure? Now, I know you're probably going to say to me that it's a multitude of, the homeowner or the potential buyer of a home um, would use the system, but also a builder to make
It's
sure that they have the right permits and all that kind of stuff. And you could say, oh, it's a multitude of everybody, but who's the kind of key person do you think would outstandingly get more use out of this platform?
Our main customers are builders themselves
Okay.
who focus on these what we call here accessory dwelling units, but they're essentially backyard cottages, or ADUs for short.
Mm,
And the reason is because that's who's advertising for business. That's who's advertising for the homeowners. The homeowners will call the builder first, and the builder eventually you will need that full feasibility study before you actually start construction, and you have to put in the full permit set.
yeah.
The thing is, how do you even know if that has an expense to it? And sort of the typical timeline is you call first, and then if you use our software, you have a quick, easy answer. So then you say, okay, now should we do a feasibility study? And a lot of builders will offer that as a loss leader. They'll say, hey, I'll do that for you for $500 or $1,000, and we'll investigate more thoroughly without AI, going through everything.
Yeah.
And that's the second step. Then the third step is you have to prepare all the plans, get a survey, do all that can be, $25,000. And then finally, as a fourth step, now you're actually doing the construction, and that can be anywhere from 150,000 to $600,000 of costs. Or I mean, the sky's the limit. I've seen some amazing ADUs that aren't really cottages, but really houses.
Yeah.
But so using our software, you're more likely to get to that second step, then that third step, then that fourth step, and to be aware of where a project is unlikely to be able to proceed.
So the average time then, Avi, in terms of from point of, I want to build something in my backyard, for example. to going through all of this process, to going through the municipality and getting all the documentation, what do you estimate that time to be currently in on average per, it's probably different per state and different per location, but
Yeah, I like this question because it highlights something that's important. It's one thing to have the laws that say you're allowed to do this, but then the timeline is often a key factor in just the cost. At least in these cases, the homeowners already own the land, so
yeah,
there isn't like that carrying cost that destroys projects for developers. But even still, it does vary quite a bit. In some areas, you can get the permits in like 30 days. In other areas, you're talking about months and months. I mean, it really varies. Some municipalities here, they require you to survey every tree and measure the diameter of every tree and the drip lines before you can do anything, which you know, even just finding someone to come out and do that, it adds. So it might not be reflected on the official timeline because you didn't even start the permit yet. You're still just looking for someone to come and do that survey.
yeah. I'm actually thinking as well that with all these sort of software platforms, big data is where it's at. So, is there another movement or another phase within your own company that can sort of say, hold on a minute, now we're starting to piece a jigsaw here of all the different municipalities and the differences between, or the nuances between the different ones, and we can start seeing where you might be able to build quicker and easier or faster? Are you getting a landscape?
I would love to get to that point where we can do that nationwide. You know, right now our focus is very much on one lot at a time. Where
Mm,
when you load the property, we're showing you your lot and the surrounding area, and you can pan and zoom and all that. But I think that you're exactly right that that's the next step from what would be helpful from more of a either a policy point of view or for builder developer point of view of finding projects is if you could zoom out and say, all right, this is where the opportunities are still at a lot on the basis of each lot. Like it would be great
mm,
to show these are the lots that, and we do have, we have a marketing tool that we offer to our customers as well, where they can do sort of those filters and say, within this geography, show me the lots that allow an ADU of whatever, at least 900 square feet and are on a lot of at least 20,000 square feet. And, then we help them. Um, Sorry for this.
you're okay.
I thought I turned this off. I don't know how to.
It's okay.
Um,
Don't worry about it. It'll be fine.
um, so yes, so we are building that tool where you can look at a broader point of view, and
Yeah.
we're really building it as a tool for the builders so that they can reach out to those homeowners uh, and say like, "Hey, you qualify for this type of project."
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's very niche, isn't it? Like, I wouldn't imagine you have any competitors, or do you?
No one's doing exactly what we do with the granularity that we have it. There are
Yeah,
other mapping tools. Uh, they tend to focus more on the visualization, but without giving you the depth of answers that we have. There are
yeah,
other zoning tools, but again, not with our granularity, and they tend to be focused more on large commercial projects of like how many, how many skyscrapers or how many like 100-unit apartment buildings can I fit on this lot? Where we're really focused on what was often called that missing middle or that infill type development of you
yeah,
own this lot already. How can you get the highest and best use from it? How can you get, and most of the people who are looking at these types of projects, by the way, are not developers. It's the homeowners who are looking a place for their parents, a place
yeah.
for their kids, their caretaker. It's really more that's who's interested in these type of projects.
But correct me if I'm wrong. Like, you're not just solely going after the market of being able to put a chalet or a cottage in the backyard of your property. This can be a greenfield in any case.
We're adding that as a feature, and I mean, honestly, by the time this episode is published, I think that we will have that because we're working on it actively to do that greenfield sort of show you what type of house can I build on this lot. Right now, as we're recording, the focus is entirely on the cottage. And how do you
It's
say it?
cottage, yeah.
Chalet? Is that what they're called
No,
there?
no, no. I'm just been using smart words. Think for letting people think I know everything and I know nothing.
Oh, it's a new word for me.
Sorry.
I'm gonna add that to my vocabulary. I like that.
Chalet, yeah.
Chalet, yes.
You want to see some of the chalets in Ireland now? To be honest with you, they'd
I
be
was going
pretty
to.
rough. Some of them are pretty rough now. A chalet is a kind of a really overused word for some of them. But we have the same problem in the UK, in Ireland, and I'm here in Europe. There's the space side of things is just getting out of hand. There isn't enough space for housing, and houses have got shorter, narrower, and you can see people's back garden from their front door now, or right through from their sitting room straight out to the back garden. There's no depth in any of the houses these days, especially in Ireland. They've come up with more planning that you can reduce the size of the back garden as well. Back garden as well.
Mm,
Like they'll fit anything anywhere the way things are gone, so long as it's contained within a local community, village or town. They don't like to see you going outside of the town or village, because obviously services need to be brought out to there, and they just don't want to have to. The government don't want to be seen to be having to put their resources into building infrastructure outside into rural areas. So a lot of it's getting urban developed, and that urban development is just getting so compacted.
that's interesting.
It's
And do you find
yeah,
that that's creating denser communities, more walkable
yeah,
communities as well?
yeah. It's the recreational space. By comparison to the actual built space is getting squeezed all the time, and it's such a pity that they're literally walking out of their door, and you're walking right into somebody else's door nearly. You're I don't know what that's going to be. There's going to be a social impact at some stage down the line.
It's
Um,
interesting. It's you gotta get the right balance there, 'cause, on the one hand, everyone wants their space. On the other hand, we want people to afford their housing, and, what in some of the more dense places, you see often the higher social cohesion where,
mm,
I just read this article, I think in the Washington Post the other day, newspaper here, and they were saying that as Americans buy bigger and bigger houses, the happiness actually declines. That there's this correlation of declining happiness because you think you want the larger house, but you realize to afford it, you have to move further away.
yeah,
And so then you have the longer commute, and then you're farther from your friends in your community
yeah,
versus squeezing into a smaller space. And I live in a pretty dense place here. Uh, I'm in half
mm,
a house, and there's actually three families in this house. And you can throw a stone and hit every other house, although hopefully not their windows. And and it does create a nice dense. There's degrees, but like something I love about where I live is just that I can walk to the store, I can walk to work, I can walk everywhere.
yeah. Accessibility, like I see it with my own father. He lives in a very rural part of the world, and like hospitals, doctors, local shops, they're not there beside you. And when you get older, you can definitely, if you don't have that sort of structure, environment, infrastructure around you, it's a massive challenge. It's a big, and I can see it, that there is a need to, be close enough to these urban centers so that you have access to these areas, but at what cost? To the environment, and at what cost to your social and your cultural sort of well-being, if you like. Um, that's a challenge.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I think that they say one of the best things to for longevity, more than sleep, more than exercise, more than diet, is the social connections.
Mm, yeah, 100%. And on the big houses, I heard a great statement there recently that going out and buying this big house, for the man, for example, one of the rooms is based on their ego, or sorry, no, they live in one room, and all the other rooms are based on their ego.
That's probably right, right?
It's
And,
probably true.
yeah,
Like, you don't really get to use all those other rooms, really. Like, do you
right,
really need all those rooms?
right, right. As my
But
mother
like,
used to say, "It's just more to dust."
Yeah, yeah, and like when you get older, you don't want to be going around having to maintain
Mm.
all the the big garden and all the rest of it. And I see that, like I see properties that are not being sold because, in fairness to people, they're starting to realize, those big old houses that were built back in the day, they're not as efficient as what the current houses are, and they're hard to maintain. Like
They're
the
hard to maintain, and
yeah,
especially as you get older, that's a lot of the people who are motivated to build these backyard cottages. Is There's also an affordability crisis here with regard to senior housing. So I don't know if
yeah,
that echoes there, but here it
it
is.
does.
So
Yeah,
you have these our parents' ages where they're in some cases feel stuck in their homes because they can't afford to maintain it, but they also can't afford to go to senior housing. And that's
yeah,
where these backyard cottages can be a good solution, where they can move to a modern single floor, same community, same lot, and then they can either rent out the house or let their children or grandchildren live in the main house, and have your own
yeah.
little village there.
They're doing it, Avi. It's happening. I have friends that are doing it. They're building one-bedroom flats in the back garden, and you know, small shower, toilet, one bed, and then a kitchenette. It wouldn't even. I don't know if you familiar with the name kitchenette, but it's basically a small kitchen.
Right.
And yeah, that's what they're doing. And either the grandmother and grandfather are moving in there, or the teenagers moving in there, or they're renting it out. And in Ireland, I think you can get 13,000. Your first 13,000 of rent is tax free in Ireland. So they
Oh,
are
okay.
incentivizing, the Irish government are incentivizing people to rent out a room in their house, or
That's
back
really
to these
smart.
kind of, yeah,
Is that
yeah.
how's that working out?
I actually don't know, because I don't know anybody that does it, but I imagine there is plenty of people that do it, and I would imagine that they're in those dense populated housing where they've probably had to pay over and above for property now in today's pricing model, and they're probably saying to themselves, okay, we won't be able to pay that mortgage, but we could rent out one of those rooms and get some of that back tax free. And that 13,000, like, that's not to be sniffed at. That's a
No.
pretty good, lump sum to get tax free.
Yeah, for sure. And it's reusing existing space that otherwise would have sat empty on existing
100%.
infrastructure.
Yeah.
So, especially in those village centers or the urban centers, I could see that being an attractive thing.
Yeah, and the other thing that I've noticed as well is that there's been a big increase in self storage. Now I know that it's
Hmm.
it's a common thing in the States, and it always has been. But because people are living in smaller environments, they don't have the extra space for all these, the Christmas decorations, the Halloween decorations,
Right, right.
the clothes that you don't really use. They're all getting, it's the self storage market seems to be doing pretty well out of this urbanization
I could
policy.
see that other industries I could see increasing and sort of like the shared space or like the outsourcing storage of course makes sense, but something that I miss, I live in just half the house, so we don't have in our unit a basement where I could set up the like all the tools and the hardware stuff. So when I want to do work, I like pull it out, I'm doing it in the living room. But there's not far from here there's a place that's like a shared workshop essentially,
Yeah.
uh, and I could see more things like that getting traction
Yeah.
too as we get more dense.
Yeah. I think we're onto something at one stage, really, weren't they, with that model of, let's have it all, we all work together, we all have a leisure together and stuff like that. Obviously, that went off the that went off the cliff in terms of a model, but there's definitely co-working since COVID definitely has increased,
Mm.
and of course remote working, which is what we're doing here today, has increased. Tell me, give me some numbers on how well you're doing as a business, or are you in the minimum viable product stage, or how mature are you with the product?
The product is working. We have a bunch of customers, and we're growing pretty quickly now. We're right now as we're recording, we're covering. the New England states and also California and Washington State. And by the time this is released, we'll be covering 20 states. And then by the end of the year, we'll be covering, I think, all 50 of the US states. And then who knows, maybe we'll come over across the pond and uh, help in other countries too.
Yeah, like you're definitely onto something because it's very manual. That's really what we're saying here, isn't it? It's a manual research that hasn't ever been sort of disrupted in terms of, if you have to do this, you have to basically sit at a computer in a library or in the local municipality going through all of this. Like
Yeah, and it's easy
it's
to get wrong, and
it's
it's very
costly.
time consuming, and just because 'cause you've done it in one town doesn't mean that you know the rules just over the border. Even in the town you specialize in, there's different zones, different hazards in different areas, different considerations. So it's definitely a time consuming thing that, gets in the way of things getting built. The other thing that people use us for, they put a light version we give them the builders the professional tool that gives them that full report. We also give them included in the package is a light version they put on their websites so that homeowners go there, they can pull up a lighter version, they can play with the builder's floor plans on their own lot, and then reach out to the builder for the full report and to go forward. We find it helps with conversions and with just qualifying and educating the homeowner so that they're more prepared to actually go forward and understand what they're getting into.
Tell me, what size of structures are generally these guys building? Do you have a sort of a sense?
Yeah, they range. They tend to be 1 to 2 bedrooms. The smallest ones can be, I mean, they're allowed we've seen efficiencies as small as 150 square feet, but probably the average is more like 600 square feet, but
Yeah,
they
I was
go up.
thinking that.
Yeah, they go higher. I mean, there's some that 1,200 square feet or larger. Like, sometimes you'll see someone, they wanna build a garage, and then over it, they build, 1,200, 1,500 square foot, living quarters.
Wow,
Yeah, I'd say
wow.
the average is probably 600 to 900 square feet.
Yeah, I think 600 is pretty much. I think in our regulations, I think it's anything over 400. Could be wrong on that, but the other thing I was thinking about as well is that it probably opens the door for builders to do more work in more areas where they probably wouldn't be as motivated to do work in a particular area because, look, I don't do work in that area because I'm not really sure about all the laws and the bylaws and the permits and all that kind of stuff. Do you
Well,
have any sense of that?
yeah, I think we find there's different types of builders. There's kind of your general contractors
Yeah,
they'll do decks, they'll do pools, they'll do kitchen renovations, and they'll also do cottages. And so for them, this is helpful just to figure out what's allowed and when those come up. But what we really enable is a company, these builders that are focused entirely on that one product. If you're focused only on building cottages, just covering a couple municipalities is not enough. You need to generally cover a larger area,
yeah,
and you need to have a pipeline and a process around how you're screening these and how you're qualifying the homeowners. It's just not scalable for you to spend, 4 to 20 hours screening every homeowner. You need to know quickly which ones are likely to do it and to educate the homeowner quickly. And so that's where, those builders who are focusing on cottages or ADUs, that's where this really shines the most.
yeah. I can see. I definitely see the attraction in the model that you're going for because I'm thinking that the when you work out the maths, the time spent on the research versus the actual, having to build the project, it might not be viable, um, in terms of all the time that you've spent on the research.
Yeah, yeah, especially if that's the product is, uh, figuring out as a company. I mean, I think this goes to a lot of the focus of your education that you're sharing with the builders is it's one thing to master your trade, but you also have to master your business.
Yeah,
And it's not as you said, it's just not viable to spend that many hours
yeah.
on
Such a small
qualifying a
project, like,
project that's not gonna pan out. You need to know
yeah.
quickly. You need that red light, green light to know what to do next.
What's your price point then, Avi, in terms of, and I'm sure you have different price points, but what are they?
It starts at 199 per month, and it's based on how many reports you need to run per month. It goes up to 1,000 per month, and if you want to cover even a larger area, we're happy to charge you more. But
Mhm.
you can get started for 199 a month.
Okay, and would that, so if I'm a homeowner, where would I be in that price point?
Well, homeowners aren't really the key target. It's really the builders.
Yeah.
So homeowners, you only really. So I should say we offer. You can run 3 reports for free. So
Okay.
anyone can create an account for free and run 3 reports, including homeowners. And a homeowner shouldn't really need more than one, but they can do 3. Um, but really, it's built with builders in mind. We'll in the future release some more homeowner focused software, but the current software is really very builder focused. And the, if you're starting out, if you're in that sort of I'm a contractor and I also do ADUs, your general
Yeah.
contractor, and you also do ADUs, I would start at that. We call it the bronze hammer plan, and
Yeah.
that's the 199 per month. If you're starting an ADU company from scratch, that's probably where you'd start, and then just scale up as you go, as you need more reports, as you're doing more business and screening more properties. You'll also be making more money, and it would make sense to upgrade. It would make sense at that point to upgrade the plan.
Yeah, I'm on your website here at the moment. So yeah, see, for builders and for homeowners. Um, it just seems to me like there's going to be another edition of this that with all the data that you're actually going to produce. I don't know, but it just seems like something else is going to fall out of this again as a product, doesn't it? Because of the data that you're actually pulling together, that there might actually be another sort of angle or
Hi, Gavin.
market. Can you hear me? Hello?
It cut out for a minute. I'm back. I hear you now, but it cut. I missed the last few sentences.
No problem. It just seems that it's the type of product that you feel that there's something else going to come out of this, or a version two of the product, that because you're producing all this data, that nobody's ever really researched or looked at or done any work in before. That there seems like there's going to be another product that'll come out of it, doesn't it?
It could be. I'm very excited to see where it goes. Like I said, no one's ever. There's been other efforts to, at a surface level, compile the zones or say just generally what's allowed in zones, but
Yeah,
not with the granularity of saying these are the setbacks. This is the lot coverage required. These are the height requirements. No
yeah.
one, the floor area ratios. No one's gone to that depth before at this
No,
scale for sure, as far as we know. So I think that there could be other things that come out of it, and I'm
yeah.
excited to see how that develops as well.
Like, even from a government point of view and from a government policy point of view, in terms of being able to pull all that data together to see, well, okay, what does the overall landscape look like within 2,000 miles, within 1,000 miles, within 500 miles? Sort of, you can kind of see how governments can kind of even sort of look at their own policies.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, we were recently selected by a state government for a project, and part of the output is we can't announce it yet. It's will be announced soon, but
It's on the
uh,
podcast. Done. It's announced.
well, I haven't said which government, which
Okay.
state, so it's okay. Um, um, by the time it's published, it probably will be announced. But we're very excited to participate with this state, but one of the outputs, we're giving them the software so that they can screen these, and they want to set up this ADU accelerator. And one of the outputs will be the data to share. How is it working? What's the pipeline from interest to actually producing housing? And we're very excited to participate in that.
Yeah, well done. Well done. I'm going to throw a few curveballs at you if you don't mind, because that's what we
Ready.
like to do. Um, Avi, knowing what you know now, what would you do different in life?
Wow, that's a tough question because on the one hand, like anybody, there's a lot of points in my life where I said, "Why did I make that decision? I could have just done this or that instead." But on the other hand, I'm very excited about where I am right now and what I'm working on
Mm,
right now, and I don't know that I would be here if it weren't for all the twists and turns that got here.
yeah,
So, uh,
nothing.
yeah, I mean, there's a million points where I could say like, "Oh, I would have done this or that," but
Yeah,
I want to be right here, right now.
Yeah, I love that. That's probably one of the best statements that's come back at me in terms of, right here, right now. That's where I want to be.
Right here talking to you, Gavin.
Give me a favorite book or movie or both, whatever's your choice, Avi.
I love the time travel. That sort of relates to the last question. I love the time travel movies where you get to go back and try things again and again. So I love Back to the Future. I love I don't know if you've seen this one with Tom Cruise. It was sort of an underrated movie, but uh, what was it called? Edge of Tomorrow, Live, Die, Repeat. He
No.
sort of like a sci-fi movie where he has to fight the alien invasion, and he keeps dying and then like respawning, almost like in a video game. And
Okay.
it was a great movie. Uh, but yeah, I
Interesting.
like those. But for books, one of my favorite books is what got me interested in sort of the design of urban fabric in general. It's called Cities for a Small Planet by someone over there in the UK, an architect, Richard Rogers. And it's always been, I think it's aged pretty well. It came out in the late 90s. And it's this small book, lots of examples about how do we design cities
Yeah,
to just support our communities and grow in a community centric and environmentally conscious way.
very good. A Now we know that you're obviously were in the army and you served in Iraq. But a point of interest about you that not many people would know.
Point of interest
Look
about me that not a lot of people would know that I'm happy to share on the air. Oh, geez, that's putting me on the spot a little bit.
It is, yeah. Something about you that not many people would resonate. It's, oh, I didn't know that about Avi. Jeez, Avi never told me that. Or, oh my God, I
I
know
really
Avi.
enjoy working in Microsoft Excel. That's something that might be surprising.
Okay.
Is that, it's not as common now, but I feel like it's a powerful tool. And then actually, it was something I used in that year in Iraq. I was doing a lot of logistical planning, transportation planning in my
Yeah.
role there, and that was a significant tool that was a force multiplier, as we used to say.
Well, it just goes to show you that's why you're successful in the business you're in. You've got that analytical mind about you, and it sort of
Thank you.
feeds into the business, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's important to have different mindsets. Sometimes look at things analytically, sometimes strategically, and to, but the analytical view, I would say, is um, pretty critical when looking at the zoning bylaws and trying to understand what they mean.
Yeah, 100%. Um, a favorite holiday destination or the go-to place that Avi says, right, I need to go there to get my head clear.
That's easy for me.
Is
I'm
it?
going to say Western Mass to the Berkshires, where my mother's family is from. Out in the mountains, the air is clear. You can breathe deep and just enjoy the views. And I find that even just driving out there, I already feel more relaxed.
Ah, brilliant. I love it. Um, Avi, how do people get in touch with you? So, talk to me. I know the website is futurelot.com, isn't it? www.future, Future, lot, as in LOT.com.
Yeah, I'm pretty easy to get in touch with, and I'd love to hear from you or anyone who's interested in trying this out. Even if we don't cover your area yet, reach out because then we'll prioritize your area to add. Uh, you can reach me at Avi, that's AVI, at futurelot.com. Or if you go on the website, I think my contact info is posted there somewhere.
I think it is too. Avi, I wish you the very best in the future with the product. It's actually pretty cool, pretty niche, it's pretty, it is very niche. It's very niche. So,
Thank you, Gavin.
there's riches and niches, as they say in the States. So I wish you every success with it, and maybe come back on the show again in the future,
I would
because
love to.
I'm sure that story is going to keep on playing out.
Thank you, Gavin. This was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me, and I'd love to stay in touch.
Take care. All the best, Avi.